Going on, guys? So now we're talking about strength training. Literally, one of my most favoriteest thing to talk about is literally resistance training, strength training, because this is literally the key to not only living longer, but like having the functionality to like race your kids when they're older, like 17 years old, and you're torturing their kids. Because that's like my main mission in life. I want to be able to like not only just be able to keep up with my kids, I want to be able to do backflips with them. I want to be able to sprint against them, and they're just gonna be so afraid, like, oh my god, like daddy's gonna race me again. It's like, yeah, dude, I'm gonna destroy you in that track for a 100-meter race, man. So strength training is literally the key. In order for you to lose your first 10 pounds, a lot of it's nutrition, but in order for you to get consistent results going forward, build the metabolism, strength training, guys. So we're gonna dive really, really deep into this stuff here. And strength training is definitely one of the things I would say is one of my biggest strengths, is the thing that I've been doing for a really long time. I'm not trying to toot my own horn, but one of the big reasons why I got into strength training was simply because I got hurt really, really bad. And it was from listening to a lot of, bodybuilders, mostly specifically these forums, and just people in the gym who I would consider them kind of like bro trainer, but like bro split. They kind of just do chest day, back day, all that's arm days, whatever, back in the day. And it would just be a lot of ego lifting, a lot of bro science. And it was one of the big reasons why I got really, really badly injured, actually. And I remember it was, I was probably 21 at the time. And I was doing like this kind of like this power building block where I was doing like bench press, deadlift, and squats like every other day. Definitely just like looking at forums. Definitely didn't have an understanding of like form or programming, which is like huge. Volume training, like the periodized, there's so many things that come into strength training, and I just had no idea. So I just basically just found like this random program, like literally on bodybuilding.com. It's like, this is what you need to do if you want to incorporate compound lift. And so I did it. I just implemented it. And it was probably like, first block was pretty good, 3 weeks in, got stronger. And then the second phase, and it was like, they're according to them as like a deload, which that's a different kind of video here. But after like a little bit of a break, you go into like a more intense block. And I remember the second phase, the first phase, it was like increase your thing by like 10%. It was specifically around like deadlift, which is way too much, by the way. And I did a deadlift, and I was pulling like quite a bit of weight at that time. Eagle lift, had a belt on, bounding back, and then disc herniation. 21 years old, heard a pop on my back, shooting pain down my leg. My leg was on fire. It was literally like numbing, tingling, like freaking pins down the needle, all the way down to like the bottom of my foot. And I remember just seizing up, and like my body was, I remember at that moment, it hurt so bad to the point of like, I couldn't even do anything. I just like laid there, and I'm just like, holy fuck, what the hell? I just froze. Right. And that was the start of it. And that was the start of my journey into like my health and fitness space, where over time I started seeing a ton of different like practitioners, chiropractors, physios, RMTs, and they're just like telling you, hey, you know what, stretch your hip flexor, I'm gonna stick a needle in you, I'm gonna massage you, XYZ, come back next week. And I just felt like everyone was doing like, they're just doing it for the money. There was like a big recurring paycheck every single time someone came to see someone. And so I was really sick of that. And that went on for like almost a whole year. I saw like doctors, orthopedic surgeons, like so many people, and they're just like, they're giving me so many different answers, and I felt really frustrated because I just wanted to go back into strength training, because strength training was a big part of my life. It really helped me like improve my mental health, like you got my confidence up. There's so many good things, and I just couldn't train, I couldn't exercise. And I remember that period of time was really, really dark for me, and I decided, I was like, F it, I'm gonna go figure it out myself. So I literally, at that moment, I remember leaving like the doctor's. It was an orthopedic surgeon or something like that. He was in one of the specialists, and he's like, "Yeah, man, we don't know what to do here." I was like, "Bro, you've been doing this for like a long time. Like, why can't you figure it out? You're like supposed to be the top doctor." And at that moment, I was just like, "I just got to figure it out." Googled what's the best university for physical therapy, and then from there, University of Melbourne, Australia. So much research around it, evidence based. And I was like, oh my god, this is the school I want to get into. So I basically just studied for like 7-8 months, re-upped all my schooling, all that jazz, and then I applied. And I got in somehow, right? Worked my ass off, took like 6 courses in one semester, and I just like studied my ass off, got really good grades, and I got into the physio school. And then from there, the rest is history. Eventually became the physical therapist for the UFC, But like a big part of like why strength training is so important to me is because it's truly like one of the things that I'm crazy passionate about, because I know how much it's changed my life. I know how it's impacted the people that I've worked with. Like strength training is one of the things where it's like the thing that will help you overcome so many things in like future life. It's the best investment you can possibly do for your future self, because if you just build up your capacity, which is what strength training is, right? Strength training is essentially, if you think about it, kind of like this little cup here, coffee cup, right? This is your body, right? And so this is your body's capacity, right? This is your muscle. So often, I'm giving you an example. Imagine you're like a runner. Okay, this is a really good analogy for capacity. Imagine you're a runner. Every single day you run 5 kilometers. This is 5 kilometers worth. Okay, but one day it's super beautiful outside. You're like, hey Dex, I want to go for a run. I'm gonna run 10 kilometers. But your body's capacity can only withstand 5 kilometers, right? So if your body can only withstand 5 kilometers, guess what? You're now doubling your capacity. Now you're pouring in an additional, it's already like up to the top, you already ran 5 kilometers. You're pouring now an additional 5 kilometers in. It's going to start to overflow because this is only 5 kilometers, but you're doing double the amount. So when this happens, this is how like pain, discomfort, irritation might occur. Okay. So when that happens, oftentimes the biggest mistake that people do is they just rest. They kind of just rest for like 2 weeks, right? So when that happens, your muscle gets weaker after 2 weeks. So your capacity, which was originally 5 kilometers, it now drops to like 4 kilometers. It gets weaker. So now when you try to go back 2 weeks later into running your 5 kilometers, well, now you're pouring water in, which originally was this much water. It's now going to start to overflow at this point right here. So if it starts to overflow at this point, people get frustrated. They're like, oh man, what's actually happening here? I usually run 5 kilometers. I'm so frustrated. And guess what they do? They rest. Someone tells them to stretch their hip flexor. Someone tells them to like stick a needle in them. Like all these things that don't actually like improve the capacity. And so when that happens, obviously people get very frustrated. They don't know what to do. They end up resting and it gets weaker. And now they try to like go back to the original thing and they can no longer do this. So that is purely what strength training is for: building capacity, building resilience, obviously building more muscle mass. When you build more muscle mass, there's so many benefits to like just the number one thing that you can possibly do to improve your lifespan is have muscle mass. As you get older, there's something known as sarcopenia, which is basically age-related muscle loss. And the stronger your baseline, the more muscle mass you have, the longer you live. And here's the reason why. This is probably the most important thing that you're possibly going to get from this. The longer you live, like the more muscle mass you have, the more durable you are. And here's why. So we're going to go back to this runner example. Okay. Let's just say you run 5 kilometers. That's your baseline. So let's just say you get hurt, right? And you're a little bit older, like 60, maybe 50 years old. And you break a hip. Now, if you broke your hip, you literally, obviously, you cannot walk for a long period of time. Maybe it takes you a bit of time to get surgery, like a month. I have no idea. So from there, your capacity drops big time, like half of it now. So now maybe you can only like walk 2 kilometers or whatever it is. Big deficit. So now when you're trying to walk, like first off, you're way more unstable because your muscles got weaker. You're at a higher risk for another fall. So if you have like a fall, each time you have a fall, your muscle gets weaker. You get more fear. You get more fearful of the movement. You become like very almost like avoidant of activity. And people go through this deconditioning cycle. And so that's one of the big reasons why having a lot of muscle mass, not saying you need to look like bodybuilder or anything, like I'm not very jacked or anything like that, but having a lot of muscle mass so that you can function is super important because your quality of life will like definitely be like improved if you just have good capacity, good resilience, and so forth. So this is known as a deconditioning cycle where, especially when you hit like 50, 60 years old, one fall, if you break your hip, it'll end up going through like this very vicious cycle where people become weaker, become more fearful of falling, which means they get even weaker, which means once they do have a fall, it's hard for them to bounce back. And we never want anyone to go through that process, which is why we're like strength train hard. It's a huge component to life. And that's what we're going to do right now. We're going to dive right into that. And that was a really long story. I hope that's helpful. Okay. So strength training is critical for fat loss. Okay. We're going back to fat loss right now, especially when you're in a calorie deficit. Why? Well, first off, it preserves muscle mass. And as we kind of mentioned, when you have a lot of muscle mass, it increases your metabolic rate, which is beautiful. This is what you want, right? It's specifically what we do with our clients is we actually assess and we're like, hey, based off of your time, you only have like 40 minutes, do this thing because this is going to give you the most bang for buck thing that you're going to do. And that's why our clients feel really good, feel energetic. And you should feel energetic with strength training because your capacity is increasing. You start from like going like this, and then you strength train, you pour a little bit of water in, but the cup gets bigger, it grows. As it grows, guess what? You require more energy, and you have more energy to distribute for your daily life, right? So now we're going to dive deep into why and how you can implement strength training to maximize fat loss and improve your physique. Because this program is all about helping you guys lose fat and building the physique that you want. Okay. So strength training is essential for weight loss. Okay. Why? Preserves muscle mass. When you lose weight through calorie deficit alone, you might lose fat and muscle. Okay. So strength training ensures that you retain as much muscle as you can while losing fat. Okay. That's our whole mission here, right? Because if you want to lose weight, you don't need to keep watching this. Just start yourself. I'm not saying you should do that. I'm just saying that's one way you could just lose weight. For us, our intention here is to give you lifelong habits, lose fat, get your dream body, be able to take off your shirt, look jacked, let's go, baby. So in order for us to do that, you got to strength train. Okay. So strength training will boost your metabolism. It truly does, right? Muscle burns more calories than fat, even at rest, right? The more muscle you have, the more calories you require, right? That you burn throughout the day, helping you lose fat faster. Imagine you just, your basal metabolic rate was like 2,500. You start strength training. And what we do for our clients is we actually assess our clients, tell them, hey, this is the program I want you to implement, strength training 3 times a week. And guess what? Over a period of time, they lose fat and they actually build muscle. So we can get them from they're starting at 2,500 calories. At the end of their freaking 4 weeks, they're now eating 3,000 calories, still at a deficit. So that's a huge, huge plus side. Okay. Number 3, body composition. So strength training doesn't just help you lose weight. It really reshapes your body. Okay. By building muscle, you achieve a toned, athletic physique. It's defined rather than just looking skinny fat, which is basically what I was. I was just super skinny fat before. Okay. So how do you actually implement strength training? I'm going to try my best to make this as simple as possible for you guys. So if I was just first starting out, I would focus on compound movements. Okay. Compound movements work for multiple muscle groups at once, making them very efficient for building muscle and burning calories. Okay. When you're exercising, though, I just want to emphasize that you're building muscle here. That's the reason why you exercise. So if we go back into this right here, where are we at? Okay. So exercise only accounts for 5% of your calories burned. Okay. It's not very much. So our intention here is to almost think about it as investing into your body, where over a period of time, you're starting to build up the RMR, which is huge. It's a huge bank of energy. So our intention here is to allow you to, you can burn a little bit of calories here, which is nice. But our intention here is to freaking build the crap out of your body so that you're super resilient and your RMR shoots through the roof here. Okay. So we're going back to here. These movements should form the foundation of your strength training program, which is essential, right? Especially if you don't have a lot of time, you have a beginner strength training routine. You can start with this, okay? Squats. Literally targets your legs, your glutes, your core. Obviously, you need a stability component. If you do deadlift, great exercise. You have to be able to deadlift throughout your daily life. Think about it like this. The stronger you are with a deadlift position, the easier life is going to be. You don't have to worry about bending over, picking stuff up. But it doesn't have to be perfect. And that's another training. But people oftentimes would be oh, my form has to be perfect to do this. It's no, it doesn't have to be, right? Because if you think about the capacity side of things, all we want to try to do is build up capacity here for the first little bit. It's less about the form. It's more about programming itself. Programming is huge because obviously you can overload muscle. You need the exercise to target the muscle that you actually want to build. But you don't have to be hyper specific for that. Because once that muscle gets tired, obviously you're going to recruit different muscle. Your body's not going to be hey, when you're doing a bicep curl, right? When you're doing a bicep curl like this, all you care about is doing this movement. As you start to fatigue yourself, it's going to be harder, right? But you're going to start to do these cheat movements to finish the movement here. So when you start to get these cheat movements, that's typically when you want to stop doing the exercise because you start to break form per se. Okay. So these are other exercises that you do: push-ups, focus on chest, shoulder, tricep, pull up, great exercise. You can use bands on your foot to give you a bit of a lift off. Row is great for posture, targets your back and biceps. So these exercises are great. Obviously, you can use bench press for this if you'd like to, but these exercises engages very, very large muscle groups, helping you burn more calories during a workout and obviously stimulate muscle growth. Okay. So obviously having a more tailored routine is ideal because not everyone can just start doing barbell squats, deadlifts, push-ups and stuff like that. So having a program that's specific to you is important. If someone was 300 pounds and they came to work with us, we probably wouldn't program this right away, right? It would be very, very difficult because we just want to get them moving. We want to help educate them, want to get the nutrition dialed, want to give them structure, want to help understand where their current limitations are, what are the areas that we want to focus on, and then we start to build out a program specific for their goal. So most of the time, if we're working with men, they're like, hey Dex, I want to have a really nice chest, nice long shoulders, I want a V-taper, and I want to like get rid of my gut, my belly. Sweet. So what are the things that you can do right now? So based off of assessment, it's like, well, it's really hard for you to do a sit-up. Okay, well, doing a sit-up might be difficult for you. How about you try to do a modified cable crunch, something like that. Perfect. So you can do that, implement it, see how that feels. Perfect. That's a really good exercise for you based off your capacity. And that's how you can progressively overload over a period of time until the gut goes away. Then you can start doing sit-ups. So having an individualized routine is super important. Now, if you guys don't have access to any sort of routine, I'm going to drop a link below. Here's what you can do. Literally just press it. It's a free program. It's full body routine. Start it, implement it. Don't get so dragged on for like the exercise component. You don't have to wait to have the perfect exercise program to start losing weight. Just implement it, get healthy, get moving. Cool? All right. So step number 2, our main intention here is we want to train at least 3 times a week. Okay. 3 to 4 times is 5 is ideal, right? But 3 times a week is such good bang for buck. Like if you're training 3 times a week, you can get phenomenal results. Most of our clients train only 3 times a week for 30 minutes a day. Why? Because it's very intentional. Like our clients are really, really, really busy. They're usually traveling for work. They usually have like kids. They usually have like very limited amount of time. So we need to be able to build a program based off of their lifestyle and ensure that every single time they're doing something, it's specific to them. And here's something that's really, really important. Everyone has a finite amount of resources. Truly. Okay. Everyone has 24 units, or I like to call marbles. I actually got this from Layla Hormozi. But everyone has like 24 marbles. Okay. 24 marbles in your day. And so you probably use 8, hopefully 10 of those for sleep. So let's just say, easy math, you now have 14 marbles left. Okay. Now you have, you got to go to work, maybe you got to travel and stuff like that. So let's just say you have 8 hours of work. Okay. Maybe you use 1 or 2 hours for travel time. So now you have like 3 marbles left because 9 marbles, right? So 14, 9. So you have 3 marbles left. So you have 3 marbles left. 1 could be for your family. So you realistically only have like 2 marbles left to actually create a program that's specific to your goal and be hyper intentional. So 2 of those marbles you could be spending on things that don't freaking matter. And that's like the emphasis here. You need to be very intentional with what you're doing. And hopefully this course gives you an idea what you should prioritize first, which is basically nutrition, right? But then when you go into the strength training side of things, this is where people can often feel lost if they don't know what to do because they're like, oh, I don't know what type of exercise to do, what's best for my body to like build my metabolism. That's where you can reach out to someone who can actually help you with this. So if you guys are actually interested in getting some sort of assessment, we're going to link something below. We can book a call with us. We're going to help you create a plan for you. So if you have any questions around that, feel free to let us know. We're happy to build this out for you guys if you guys need. Okay. So I totally understand that sometimes it can be very frustrating because you're just like, oh man, I go to the gym, I don't know what to do. So when people are like that, they're wasting their marbles, they're just putting it towards something that doesn't really matter. That's where frustration can be. But I want to give you guys a little bit of insight that you guys don't need to train 5 days a week, 7 days a week to get your dream body. It's absolutely not necessary. As long as you're doing intentional exercise that's specific to you and you're slowly over time being very consistent because it works with your lifestyle, you will eventually get to your goal. And so for here, ideally we want to strength train 3 to 4 times a week. 45 minutes to like 60 minutes is more enough. I train 60 minutes 5 times a week, and that's more than enough for me. After the 60-minute mark, I start to get really tired. I'm no longer efficient on my training routine. And so I try to keep my workouts like around 60 minutes. So this is like a sample routine. Okay, you can do a full body day, which could be like squats, push-up, rows. You can do a lower body day, deadlift, lunge, leg press. You can do upper body day, pull up, shoulder press, bench press. You can do a full body workout routine, front squat, dip, kettlebell swings, right? And the most important thing is if you want to build hypertrophy, one of the most important thing is you got to be close to failure. In order for you to stimulate muscle growth, it has to be close to failure. Okay, that means imagine you're doing push-up, right? You're doing it. You could probably do one more, right? You're getting tired. You can probably do another one, and you definitely cannot do another one. That's when you typically want to stop. Okay, cool. So actionable steps, start with 3 sets of 8 reps to begin. But again, the most important thing is like choosing a weight that gets you close to failure. That's close to muscular failure, and gradually increase the weight or resistance over time so you can get stronger. Okay. Step number 3, probably the most important thing around strength training, progressive overload. Okay. So you want to continue seeing progress to ensure you're building muscle. You need to practice progressive overload. It's the most important thing, right? That means gradually increasing the difficulty of workouts over time. How are you going to do that? Well, you need to increase the weight that you lift, or you increase the reps so you actually start to build this out. The rep needs to increase over a period of time. You need to reduce your rest time. That's a good way to progressive overload as well. Since obviously you have less rest time, it's going to be more difficult. You're going to hit muscular failure a bit quicker. And then from here, keep a workout log. Track your weight, track your reps, track your sets each week to aim to lift a little bit more, complete an extra rep. So obviously for us, we have our own app. It's just super easy. You just look on there and just implement basically what's on that day here, and makes it really, really easy for us. So you can get an app as well, or you can just get like a notepad. Cool. Step number 4, include resistance training for all muscle groups. So it's important to train all muscle groups to build a balanced, functional physique, baby. Let's go, right? So this includes legs, back, chest, shoulder. So actually identifying what are your weaker muscle groups and like targeting that, it's going to give you a lot of value. Okay. So sometimes people have crazy imbalances, and so that's where the assessment component would be really, really helpful. So balance training is super important because obviously you can prevent muscle imbalances, which can lead to injuries, right? You want to ensure full body strength, stability. You want to enhance overall body shape and aesthetics. So once you kind of get the imbalances sorted, then you focus on aesthetics and telling you exactly which muscle to train so it's actually perfect for you. Because you can use an exercise that's too hard for you, or you might be doing an exercise that's too easy for you. So if you're not getting that amount of stimulus, you're not going to maximize your training session. Okay. So make sure each workout hits at least 2 to 3 major muscle groups. For example, leg day should include squats, which is obviously for quads, deadlift, hamstring and back, full body almost, and calf raises. Calf raises are really important because once you hit the age of 30 and you're still playing sports, you're still being pretty active, your risk for Achilles tendon rupture goes way higher, especially if you're male and you're playing basketball, right? High risk. So I do a ton of calf work because I don't want to risk, where I want to reduce my risk of potentially rupturing my Achilles. Step number 5, rest and recovery. Muscle needs to grow and repair when you rest, not while you're working out. So you can't train every single day. Adequate recovery is super important for building muscle and fat loss. And the reason why it's so important is because it literally reduces overtraining. So we're going back to like this example here. Now, when you're like running 5 kilometers, you need to drain this. How do you drain this? Well, it's sleep. It's literally going to sleep. All right. So if you sleep only like 3 hours, well, guess what? This cup is only going to be filled up to here. All right. So then the next day, if you run 5 kilometers, you're potentially going to be overloading. So rest is really important because it ensures sustained energy for future workouts. Actionable tips include at least 1 to 2 rest days per week. On rest days, focus on light activities such as walking, stretching, yoga, aid recovery without stressing your muscle. And walking is such a great way to actually it's very low impact. You can do this. It's very sociable. I would encourage everyone to just keep walking. In fact, the longer you walk and the faster you walk, it's strongly related to how long you're going to live. So definitely start to incorporate that. So here's some actionable strength training plans for fat loss. So for instance, you can do something like this, which is a full body routine. You can do squats, deadlift, push-up, pull-up, rows, planks, 3 sets, and rest 1 to 2 minutes each. Obviously, depending on your rest time, it could actually start to bias certain muscle groups. So here's the thing that is a little bit further along, but we have something called the muscle fiber conversion process. And so long-term is our goal here is to really turn our athletes, or every single one of our clients, we call them athletes, because we want to try to build up the capacity so that they become a phenomenal athlete, right? We want them to develop fast twitch muscle fiber. Like if you think about the top athletes in the world, Usain Bolt, Cristiano Ronaldo, what's the thing that separates them? Okay, it's simply because they have so much fast twitch muscle fiber and they're freaking genetically beasts. So everyone has an amount of fast twitch muscle fiber and slow twitch muscle fiber in their body genetically, but there's a certain component where if you start to train fast twitch, you can convert some of your slower twitch endurance-based muscle to that fast twitch muscle fiber. So our intention here is by training to become more fast twitch muscle fiber, you become really resilient to injury, because think about it like this, like Usain Bolt, LeBron James, these guys, they're not going to just walk off a curb and rupture their Achilles. Their capacity is super freaking high. So we want to try to get our athletes to that same level as much as we can, because their daily function, going up and down stairs, they're not going to be tired. They're not going to be out of breath. In fact, they're going to be able to sprint anytime they want because it's just part of their daily life. These guys no longer require motivation. It's truly just part of their identity. So that's a big part of what we're trying to do here. And obviously, the more fast twitch muscle fiber you have, dude, if you just look at all these fast twitch muscle fiber, these guys have the best physique on the planet, in my opinion. The most athletic looking physique. They're just ripped all the time. Why? Because they're a freaking fat burning machine. Like the amount of muscle mass that they have on their body, that's what, like, who do you think burns more calories? Probably like someone like Usain Bolt, or someone that's like more like a, fluffier kind of person, right? Probably Usain Bolt. This guy's like a monster, right? He probably requires like 7,000 calories at rest, right? So our goal here is to actually get our athletes, our clients to this state here. So how do we do that? Well, depending on like the type of workouts that you're doing, type of training, plyometric base, box jumps, but also rest time has a big component to that as well. Okay. So focusing on maintaining proper form, building capacity, and gradually increasing the weight or reps is basically what you need to do. Okay. So here's some actionable tips. If you're new to strength training, start with, body weight routine first, gradually incorporate weights. And then for more advanced lifters, focus on progressively increasing your weights to challenge your muscle groups. And here's like the final thoughts for strength training. Strength training is truly key, guys. It really, really is. I hope everyone just like after this video, they go into strength training, just keep training. And it's the key to retaining muscle mass and burning fat effectively. It helps you achieve a leaner, more defined body. It improves metabolism and enhances strength. It fucking battles cancer, guys. It's like the number one thing you could possibly do to like increase your lifespan. By far, it's the number one thing, guys. It makes you feel better, right? If you incorporate compound exercise training consistently and progressively over your muscles, you're not only going to lose fat, but you're going to turn yourself into like this freaking fat burning machine, guys. And that's what we truly want. We want this to be on autopilot. You want this to be part of your identity. You want this to be part of your habits, right? And so strength training is literally the thing that obviously I'm so happy I got hurt. I told you guys a story. But if I didn't get hurt, like I wouldn't be where I am today. And I think strength training, I'm probably like the geekiest, dorkiest guy when it comes around to this, but I just know how beneficial it is for people to just do this, the resistance type of training. All right, guys, stay tuned for the next training, guys. Let's go.